Well, as I say, Earth doesn't show as much evidence of meteorite impacts as the Moon does, but that's because we have an active weathering environment that obliterates this. The evidence of these things tends to be reduced after a relatively short period of time. But the model was essentially put together, a model's a theory, and this is an artist's depiction of what a meteorite impact might have been, or might look like impacting Earth at the end of the Cretaceous. The impact of this meteorite is presumed to have created devastating effects in a variety of ways. Now, first of all, there would be enormous heat produced by this. And the notion was that the heat would set any forests that we had on fire. The fires would produce an enormous amount of smoke, which would go into the atmosphere and obliterate the rays of the sun, or at least reduce the amount of solar radiation arriving at the surface of the Earth. In addition to the smoke in the atmosphere, we would have ash in the atmosphere, ash from the rock materials that were produced. And the idea developed of what was called nuclear winter. Actually, the idea of nuclear winter had been around for a long time. It had been part of the strategy for fighting the arms race between the Soviet Union and the United States. The idea was that if both the Soviet Union and the United States were to deploy all, certainly, but even many of their nuclear weapons, that it would create a climate change that would devastate life on Earth, because it would change climate. The idea behind interrupting the sunlight is that temperatures would drop. Remember, the albedo would increase as we have reflection from the surface of the ash and cloud layers. And the temperatures would drop to the point where many life forms would be affected. This is kind of attractive because at least the cold-blooded dinosaurs and cold-blooded reptiles would not be adapted for those kinds of drops in temperature. There's also the potential that the amount of oxygen within the atmosphere could be depleted over a relatively short period of time by all the fires that are going on. And remember, last time we showed you a diagram that indicates that oxygen levels have been rising prior to the end of the Cretaceous and then dropped off beginning in the early Tertiary. And that may in part be a consequence of all of the oxygen that was used up by fires during this impact destruction. It's kind of interesting that the whole idea of this meteorite impact became indelibly intertwined with the nuclear arms race. And in fact, when you were arguing for one or against one, you were arguing for or against the other.